Hey everybody, it's Norbert Juiced and welcome to Executive Job Search Secret Podcast. Today I want to talk to you about the differences between going to a third-party training organization like a medical sales college versus just going out and getting direct outside business-to-business selling experience and what the benefits are of each. So first, let's talk about medical sales college specifically. There are other third-party training organizations that exist, but that is the main one that most people in today's day and age are actually attending. And so what I'll tell you about medical sales college is that it seems to be a really good organization with some really good training that takes place. It takes quite an investment financially in order to participate in their program, and determining whether or not the return on investment is there is something that we're going to discuss today. And so the thing about medical sales college is that they are looking to take the amount of time that it takes for you to get up and running, hitting the ground running for your specific company that you go to work for, and cut that down in a fraction of the amount of time to prepare you to hit the ground running. So when XYZ company hires you, you're not out there, taking 6 to 9 months to learn the business on how to, get started and get the most amount of business quickly. I can speak from my own personal experience. I used to work for a company called Synthy Spine. I had outside business-to-business sales experience, but I had no clinical background whatsoever. So when I was hired at Synthy Spine, my particular manager was looking for somebody that had sales experience, somebody that knew how to run a territory, knew the pressures of a quota, knew how to build relationships, but I had no specific spine surgical clinical experience. And this particular manager and this particular organization felt like that was something that they could teach and train much easier than teaching the selling aspect of the business. So the be all end all answer is murky. There is no black and white. There is no this is the route, this is the direction that you should take. What I'm here to do today is to help you set the expectations based upon whichever route it is that you choose to take, right? So essentially with a medical sales college, it costs several $1,000s. It will run for several weeks they have a 12-week program. And you need to understand before you make that investment, what are your expectations going into it? What are your expectations coming out of it? Do you expect to get a job coming from that? And maybe you should actually look at taking a job in sales initially first. So if you actually look at a medical sales college and you look at their website and their statistics, they have a very high percentage of placement rate with their candidates. I want to say it's like 80% of their candidates end up landing a job within some type of medical device organization. 3% of their candidates are currently looking for some type of position based upon their statistics. However, there was like 16% or 19% or something like that actually decided for whatever reason to no longer actually participate in this industry at all. And it could have been, for varying reasons. It could be that they actually just didn't respond to the poll, and so therefore they moved them out. But let's say conservatively of that 16 or 19%, let's say 10% of them probably decided that this was not the career for them. And the question you need to ask yourself is, when is the time for you to get the information to make that decision? Is it after you've spent thousands of dollars going through that? Or are you okay with going through all that sales training, spending the thousands of dollars, and then at that time determining, this probably isn't the career or profession for me, okay? And so on the flip side of the coin is taking a job in just outside business to business sales to get your your teeth cut on sales and what sales means and what getting told no is. Again, I've mentioned this before. I do not have a crystal ball. Nobody does, right? And so I'm strictly speaking to you from a statistical percentage. From my personal experience of being in and around this industry for 27 years, placing strictly medical device candidates in some high-level pharmaceutical for the last 14 years, what has been my experience? Most sales managers want sales experience. And again, that's not all. That's not saying that you have to have sales experience. I'm strictly talking, statistically speaking, chances are that most sales managers would prefer for you to have some type of sales experience versus having that medical sales college background, okay? So the question you need to ask yourself is, let's say on average it costs for the 12-week orthopedic course $14,000, okay? And maybe you've already been out in outside sales and you have applied to get into, so you know you like sales, you've applied to get a job in medical device sales, and you've hit a brick wall. You've had a very difficult time getting in and finding that ideal position that you're looking for. And so maybe that's the one thing that can take you over the edge, that additional clinical experience, sales training, so that when that company hires you, you know about the 3 feet surgical barrier that you cannot break. You know about, clinical terms and anatomy and all that kind of stuff that surgeons are looking for from their rep when you get in. And maybe that's the one thing that helps you bridge that gap and get over the hump and get that medical sales job. And so in that case, you go in with that expectation and know that, that's probably an acceptable decision for you to make. On the flip side, if you're coming out of college directly and you're like, hey, listen, I'm going to go get a job or in medical sales college after I graduate from college, go to medical sales college, and I'm just going to land this, great medical device position, that may not be the case. So from my experience, most people that get hired at medical sales college are getting hired into associate sales rep roles. And again, that's not always, but for the most part, from the experiences I've had with candidates, you're getting hired into an associate sales rep position. And that's a great way to break into orthopedic sales. I mean, it's a phenomenal way. You don't have the pressure of a sales quota typically. You are learning alongside an experienced veteran rep who's been there, who's gone through it, and they're, holding your hand and walking you through the process. You don't have the pressure of the doctors having high expectations for you. You can build that rapport, learn how to talk to doctors, what their expectations are, and so forth. So starting off as an associate sales rep is a great way to get in the business. However, what you need to understand is what kind of money are you going to make? You shouldn't go in with these grandiose expectations that, hey, I'm going to get a job in medical sales. Everybody makes $150,000, $200,000. Man, this is my dream job, etc. That takes some time to get there. And starting off as an associate sales rep, I've seen them as low as $25,000, $30,000 without any benefits. You have to pay your benefits yourself. It's great experience. But I've seen it up to, say Stryker, they might pay their associates $65K base, give you a company car, all that kind of stuff. Fresh out of college, making $65,000 with a company car. Hey, that's, in most people's mind, that is a great first job out of college. However, once you get that position, you need to have the understanding that more than likely, the only way you move up within that organization is in that territory is somebody dies, somebody quits. Typically in order to move up, you either need to move into a different territory or you need to switch companies and go to a different organization. And myself, in 14 years of recruiting, I loved searching for associate sales reps. I mean, because you have the surgical sales experience, you have the training, And so, and I know you weren't making a great deal of money. So when I had that medical sales full-blown territory rep position that was, say, $120,000 a year, you were a perfect target for me to go out and find to place into that next position, that next step up in your career. So as long as you're going in understanding that you're maybe going to have to start, and most likely going to have to start as an associate sales rep, and let's say on average around a $50,000 a year or maybe $40,000 a year income, that's great. I just don't want you going to medical sales college and thinking that, hey, I'm going to come out of there and I'm going to land this grandiose medical device rep. I'm going to be an orthopedic total joint rep and I'm going to make it $350,000 a year. It's not going to happen. And so the other thing I want to cover is, again, all of the hiring is typically done based upon past experiences from a manager, personal experiences from a manager, and they set the tone for what they're looking for. So one manager might 100% absolutely want clinical sales background, that they've hired people who have outside business-to-business sales experience, but don't have the clinical sales experience, and their experience has been that somebody with clinical sales experience has a tendency to do much better than somebody who just has sales experience. So for that type of manager, going to a medical sales college makes a lot of sense. However, I will tell you, again, from my experience and most of the recruiters that I know who've spent 20, 30 years in the industry, that's atypical. Most managers want sales experience. So let me talk to you about a scenario. I have a candidate that I had spoken to in the past who had been to college, had gone on to a nursing or PA, nurse practitioner type clinical school, thinking they wanted to do that, made the decision that they didn't want to do that anymore and they wanted to get into sales. So now they've gone through and they've spent a great deal of money on college, and they decided, I want to go to medical sales college. They go to medical sales college and they come out and they get a job as an associate sales rep with an orthopedic device company that is going to provide them with great sales training and experience. But they just spent, an additional probably $15,000, $20,000 in addition to all the money they spent on college to go to medical sales college, where they could have taken the route of, instead of going on to grad school and going to medical sales college, they could have taken a job with a ADP, Paychex, Cintas, Icon, what used to be Yellow Pages, Dex Media, some type of advertising sales. I mean, there's a number of ways that are considered as good B2B training grounds. And instead of paying $20,000 to get that education, they now have made money. They've saved that $20,000 and they've spent, typically it used to be you needed to spend about 2 years in outside business-to-business sales. I think that number has come down. It's probably 18 months now. I've seen somebody with as little as 10 months of outside business-to-business sales get into medical device sales. But I would say you probably need to, in order to set proper expectations, you need to set in your head that you need to spend, probably 18 months in outside business-to-business sales. And that will, there are no guarantees in life in any form or fashion, but that is about as close to a guarantee as you can get as what you need to get into medical device sales. And I mean, I've recently seen posts from hiring managers who say, I absolutely 100% want outside business-to-business sales experience. I've seen another hiring manager who said, I 100% absolutely want that clinical sales training. I want somebody who has that clinical background, that clinical sales or clinical knowledge that they can convey to the doctor and convey that confidence that they know what they're talking about. So it really depends on what the manager is that you're interviewing with, but the expectations that you have, I'm trying to set as what is the most predictable outcome that you can get. And from my experience and those recruiters around me that I've talked to, it's getting into B2B sales or getting in B2B sales, going to medical sales college at that point, getting that additional clinical sales training and knowledge. I mean, the one thing I'll tell you is most orthopedic surgeons, and I'll share my own personal story. So when I went to work for Synthes Spine, I did not start as an associate rep. I had already had sales experience in outside business to business. I had already had medical device sales for a division of Johnson & Johnson selling a disposable catheter. However, I had no surgical sales experience, no spine experience whatsoever. So it took me probably 6 to 9 months to get my very first case. I had to call on these doctors over and over and over again to build that rapport, to establish that trust and that confidence level. Because when you're in the OR, when you're in surgery and there's a patient open on the table and the pressure is on that doctor, he wants to know that that sales rep is there as a consultant for him or her. They want to know that you are there and you are fully capable and you know your system and you know your anatomy backwards and forwards. I mean, there is no greater high that I have experienced in sales than being in those surgical cases and you have a doctor turn to you with the patient on the table, say, Norbert, what do you think I should do next? Which instrument do you think I should choose? Which size screws do you think I should use? And so that's a lot of pressure on that sales rep. And a medical sales college is going to help you establish that confidence. And they're going to help you with your knowledge base so that the learning curve is cut down when you go take that job. And instead of taking 6 to 9 months to get that case, as in my situation, had I had a medical sales college background, I might have established that confidence in my doctor as a consultant in 3 months' time or 2 months' time. But what I don't want you to think is that you're going to go to this and you're going to come out of there with a medical sales college degree and background and experience, and you're going to land that $150,000, $200,000 a year job. There's steps that are needed to be taken in order to get to that level in your career. And so, in summary, I would say medical sales college or no medical sales college, the first thing you need to ask yourself is, do you know unequivocally, beyond a shadow of a doubt, if you want to get in sales to begin with? You think you do, and it is the best route to figure that out, to maybe go take an entry-level business to business. And I'm not talking retail, I'm not talking mortgages or real estate where you're sitting in an office and working on the phone. Most, again, the greatest predictable outcome is business to business, face to face, door knocking, getting rejection sales. That is what most sales managers are looking for. And so are you better off going and figuring out if you actually like sales first, if you like that pressure of a sales quota, if you like the high and the thrill of closing that sale and getting that commission check, or if the pressure is too much and you would prefer to be in, you typically will work from home. You will typically be on your own on a daily basis. I mean, obviously you're going into doctors' offices and clinics and hospitals and things like that, but you're not working in an office environment in a cubicle with a bunch of other people around you that you have a lot of camaraderie. So you need to ask yourself, is that what I'm looking for? And the best way to determine that, is it to go to medical sales college and spend, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to figure out that I don't want sales? Or is it maybe to take that first sales job, get that business to business sales experience, and then evaluate, hey, is this the next logical step in my career to go to medical sales college, get that training, get that clinical background to establish that confidence in that OR setting so that I can land my next best surgical sales position. And so the options are there. Again, there is no right answer. It all depends upon your specific background, what you're looking for, and what your expectations are. The one thing that I will leave you with is the biggest factor going into this is, statistically speaking, most medical sales managers want sales experience first. And if you're prepared to go to medical sales college and invest in that background, know that you're going to probably land a job as an associate sales rep in the $35,000 to $50,000 a year range. And if you're okay with that, and if you think that's worth it for you to invest that kind of time and money into that, hey, God bless you. Go do it, and know that you're probably going to have to take your next step outside of that organization, or move within that organization to a different territory to move up within that company. And it typically is going to take a couple years' time in order for that to happen. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, support@careernextagency.com. We can coach you. We can help you with these decisions. We have all types of tools and techniques that can help you eliminate some of those decision-making factors, some of those barriers to get in, and teach you tips and tricks on how to circumvent those and take a more direct route to your ultimate sales career. So thanks, and until our next podcast, I look forward to speaking with you again soon.